This is my body. There are many like it, but this one is mine. That probably sounds incredibly familiar, doesn't it? It has the absolute, unmistakable cadence of a battlefield oath. But notice the shift here. We aren't talking about a weapon of war. We're literally talking about human biology. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to unpack a really remarkable ideological text that has taken a famous military creed and completely re-engineered it for a totally different kind of campaign.
So we're going to be conducting a textual analysis of what's known as the Pronatalist Creed. Now, the modern pronatalist movement is focused heavily on encouraging reproduction to counter declining global birth rates. And this text serves as a fascinating lens into exactly how that ideology is being framed. We're going to impartially dissect this creed, explore its core themes, examine its direct and honestly surprising military inspiration, and even look at how it translates into different cultural contexts facing massive demographic shifts today. Section 1, the Pronatalist Creed. Let's jump right into the foundational text itself.
The text establishes its baseline right out of the gate. My body is my greatest gift. It is my life. I must master it as I must master my life. Notice that phrasing. It's a really fascinating shift. It doesn't view the physical body merely as a vessel for personal enjoyment or self-expression, which, is a very common modern perspective. Instead, it frames the biological body as a purposeful entity. It's a tool that demands intense, disciplined, and deliberate mastery. The individual and their biology are bound together in this shared duty. The creed then goes on to define its value system by explicitly stating what it rejects. What counts in this life is not the wealth we accumulate, the noise of our ambitions, nor the comfort we make for ourselves. We know that it is the lives we bring forth that count. Wow, that is a stark, absolute rejection of typical societal goals, the pursuit of career milestones, financial riches, or just personal comfort, all dismissed as mere noise. The sole metric of a successful life, according to this text, is strict reproduction. Section 2, deconstructing the core themes. Let's map out exactly what this philosophy rejects versus what it strongly prioritizes. The battle lines of this ideology are literally drawn in the sand. On one side, you have the rejection of modern pleasures and comfort. And it's crucial to note these aren't viewed as rewards, but as threats that could undo the individual. On the flip side, you have the sacred duty of mastering the body and guarding the future. It contrasts the perceived weaknesses of modern individualistic society with what it views as the paramount obligation of carrying humanity forward through new life. It is fundamentally an ideology of endurance over enjoyment. Which brings us to the highly metaphorical language the creed uses to describe this duty. It states, "My body is sacred, thus I will master it as a temple. I will learn its rhythms and its strength, its needs and its limits, its seasons and its purpose." The text frames the human body as a sacred temple, intrinsically tied to natural rhythms and seasons. It actually mandates that the individual must fiercely guard this temple against the ravages of neglect and despair. So it elevates the act of maintaining physical readiness for reproduction into a massive spiritual and communal obligation. Section 3, the military inspiration. Let's look at the exact source material for this cadence. Now, here is where it gets really wild. The Pronatalist Creed does not hide its origins at all. It directly cites the United States Marine Corps Rifleman's Creed as its template. For a little context, the Rifleman's Creed was written during World War II and is this foundational military oath. It emphasizes a Marine's total mastery of, and unbreakable psychological bond with, their rifle for the purpose of warfare. So what we are witnessing is the deliberate, astonishing adaptation of a vow of military devotion straight into the biological realm. Just listen to the structural mirroring here. The original military text goes, "This is my rifle. I must master it." The pronatalist adaptation, "This is my body. I must master it." The syntax is literally identical, but just by substituting the word rifle with body, the entire domain of the oath shifts. Where the Marine speaks of mastering their weapon for physical combat on a battlefield, the pronatalist speaks of mastering their physical body for reproduction in a demographic struggle. And look at how the metrics of success get swapped. The Marine's Creed states, quote, "What counts in war is not the rounds we fire. We know that it is the hits that count." Total focus on the lethal efficiency, right? The pronatalist text mirrors this rhythm beautifully but completely flips the objective. Quote, "What counts in this life is not the wealth we accumulate, it is the lives we bring forth that count." It borrows the militant certainty of a soldier aiming at a target and applies it directly to the demographic objective of bringing new life into the world. Even the identified threats are perfectly parallel. A soldier vows to guard their rifle against the physical ravages of weather and damage because, well, a rusted rifle is useless. In the adapted text, the pronatalist must guard their body and household against the ravages of neglect and despair. It beautifully translates the physical wear and tear of a weapon into the psychological, cultural, and societal threats that might weaken a family unit or discourage childbearing. It's just a fascinating rhetorical translation.
Section 4. Cross-cultural linguistics.
Of course, declining birth rates are not just a Western phenomenon. Some of the steepest demographic cliffs are happening right now in East Asia. Which brings us to Sheng Yu Xin Tiao, the Pronatalist Creed translated into classical poetic literary Chinese. Now, this is absolutely crucial. This wasn't converted into conversational Mandarin, the kind used in everyday life or on social media. It was deliberately adapted into an ancient, highly stylized format. In the context of the severe demographic crisis in East Asia, that linguistic choice is incredibly calculated.
Observe how that stark, militaristic opening translates. It reads, Si wu chu ye, yu do ze yu zi si, ranwei zi shu wo. Now, to a reader of Chinese, this formal, ancient linguistic register instantly evokes the tone of historical edicts, dynastic records, or foundational philosophical texts. By using classical phrasing, this modern text is immediately imbued with a profound sense of historical and literary weight. It completely elevates the call for reproduction from a modern government policy to something that feels timeless and deeply rooted in ancestral duty.
This classical translation also strictly preserves the core philosophical arguments of the English version. The text reads, Wu kuiyang wu juzizi, shangzhong sozhong fei cai chanzi ji lei, ji zhongzhi nai wu bei so shangji shangming, which essentially translates to, knowing that what truly matters is not the accumulation of wealth, but the life we bring forth. Think about East Asian societies, where immense cultural emphasis is often placed on intense academic and financial ambition. Explicitly rejecting wealth in favor of childbirth, using ancient poetic language, that acts as an incredibly powerful countercultural philosophical statement. Section 5. The Vow of Endurance. Both versions end with a definitive tripart vow. The English reads, we will be fruitful, we will multiply, we will endure. The classical Chinese equivalent ends with Wu dong jiang yong zun, we will forever exist or endure. This absolute conviction perfectly mirrors the ending of the Marine Corps Creed, which vows to fight until victory is America's. But here, victory isn't about the defeat of a foreign army. Victory is simply outlasting demographic collapse. It is pure biological endurance. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you looking at this final question. How does swapping a weapon of war for the human body change the fundamental impact of a militant vow? By taking the fierce, unyielding structure of a soldier's oath and applying it to childbirth and family, the authors of the Pronatalist Creed have essentially re-engineered words meant for a battlefield into a sweeping philosophy of biological survival. It transforms the intensely personal act of having a family into a disciplined, strategic, and unified movement. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope this analysis gave you a clear, fascinating look into the rhetoric of this growing modern movement. Catch you next time.